I'm going to call the Select Board meeting for Monday, March 25th, 2024 to order and announce that we are going into executive session, and we will return no sooner than 6 p.m. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we enter into executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. 4-0, Joe. 5:36. Evening, I'm going to call the Select Board meeting back to order. We were in executive earlier, and we did not make any decisions. I'm also going to remind you that as required by open meeting law, you are hereby informed that the town will be video and audio taping as well as live broadcasting this public meeting. In addition, anyone in the audience who plans to video or audio tape this meeting must notify the chair prior to the start of the meeting. Hearing nobody, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments and announcements. I'm going to start with you, Jeff.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for being here. Just want to make the announcement that I will be picking the date for my next office hours with Select Board Member McCaskill for the month of April. And Joe, I believe there's a way to get that on the town website as well on the calendar. Is that
Correct.
what I understand?
Yes.
So you can also, if you're looking for it, it should be up on our town's website. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment and announcement?
Good evening, Emily Mitchell, Town Clerk. We have a few important dates coming up in relation to both the special town election and the annual town election, so I just wanted to go through those briefly. First, this Friday, March 29th, is both the last day to register to vote if you're looking to participate in the special town election, and that election, excuse me, is Tuesday, April 9th. Polls will be open 12 to 6 at the community center. And then Friday is also the deadline to obtain nomination papers for anyone looking to run in the annual town election. So again, we have the available offices that have vacancies listed on our town clerk department page, and we are open until 5 p.m. on Friday for both of those purposes. Second, next Tuesday, April 2nd, is also the deadline for anyone who is looking to apply for an absentee ballot, again for the special town election. And it is also the deadline for candidates to submit completed nomination papers for the annual town election. So we have two dates that are both relevant to the special town election and the annual town election, Friday, March 29th, and Tuesday, April 2nd. And we are open until 5 p.m. on both of those days for all four of those purposes. If anyone has questions, again, they're on our website, or they can reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Emily. Anybody else for public comment and announcement?
Hi, Mike Olgren. I'm the president of Standish Woods Homeowners Association. You just recently got an email correcting one order of the taking that's later on tonight. I'm here with several board members from the association. We're here if you have any questions regarding that.
Great, thank you. Anybody else for public comment and announcements?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Yeah, Patrick Otten, East Harwich. First announcement is, again, repeating that there will be a public forum discussion and information session for the public on all 5 of the citizens petitions that are on the town warrant. Ed McManus will be there as well to cover his. I will be there to cover the ones I have submitted. So it'll be at the 204 Cultural Center, April 2nd. That's next Tuesday at 10 a.m. April 18th, that's a Thursday at 4 p.m. And April 28th, that's a Sunday at 1 p.m. So all public is invited to get up to date and see what's happening with with those petitions.
Are those all at 204 Sisseton?
All at 204, yes. And then from last week's meeting, I think it was Article number 10, the tree cutting bylaw, was not correctly formatted in what was presented at the meeting. It's not what was signed or turned in by residents. I have attempted to reach Mr. Powers 3 times, twice by email, once in his office, had no response. So I'm going to ask the Select Board, please follow through and please be sure that what's on the town warrant is what was submitted, correctly formatted, so that when it's on the warrant, people know that that's what they want to have.
I believe that has been corrected, but I did think I saw one typo in it. You, Joe?
Yes, I believe Article 10 now references the omitted graphics. Everything else was in the manner that it can be comported to the entire warrant.
Right.
And the word comported means what?
They all have to be formatted the same way for printing purposes.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comments and announcements? Okay, hearing nobody, we will go to our public hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Notice of public hearing, vote by mail for annual town election to be held May 21st, 2024. The Harwich Select Board will hold a public hearing on March 25th, 2024, no earlier than 6 p.m. in the Don B. Griffin Room located at Town Hall, 732 Main Street, Harwich, for the purpose of considering whether to opt out of early voting by mail for the annual town election scheduled for May 21st, 2024, as authorized under Mass General Law, Chapter 5425B. Please note, action on this topic will not impact early voting by absentee ballot, which will remain available for all qualified voters in all elections. All members of the public having an interest in this topic are cordially invited to attend. Remote participation is also offered. Please see posted agenda for dial-in information.
Thank you,
Move that we open the public hearing.
thank you. Somebody want to second that?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Emily?
Sure. Thank you for considering this evening. I was before you a few weeks ago for a very similar conversation in relation to the special town election. Just to kind of reframe the conversation, the state passed a pretty comprehensive election reform law in 2022, which makes what's called early voting by mail mandatory for all state and federal elections, and it is considered the default for local elections. However, the state does give communities through the Select Board the option to opt out of offering vote by mail for local elections. And I am recommending that you do so again for the annual town election. You did do so for the special. Kind of the impetus behind my recommendation is related to another component of this law, which says that the Secretary of State's office will mail out vote by mail applications to all registered voters prior to all state and federal elections. So I'm sure the 4 of you are familiar with, and our registered voters at home are familiar with those vote by mail postcard applications that went out in advance of the presidential primary election. And the biggest impact of those postcards on our local elections is the fact that they give voters 4 options for identifying which elections they would like to receive mailed ballots for, including an option to receive ballots for all elections. However, the applications make no reference to the local elections. So what I see in my experience in the clerk's office is that a lot of folks choose all elections, and I believe them to assume that it means the 3 elections that are printed on those applications. But the impact, unless the board opts out, is that they have, in fact, requested a mailed ballot for the local elections. So we've received about 2,200 applications that include voters checking off the box for all elections, but the vast majority of those applications include no reference to the locals. So only about 50 of those 2,200 requests are made on applications that include details about our local elections, and only 5 of the 2,200 or so specifically requested a mailed ballot for our annual election. So because of that, what I would call a gap in information, based on what the state mails to voters and what the voters fill out and return to us, I see value in the town opting out in 2023, when the laws were the same, but there was no postcard that went out from the state, we only had 57 voters who opted to vote by mail. And I think that's a more accurate reflection of the number of Harwich voters who would choose to vote by mail in a local election. So I think the cost, both in staff time and actual dollar cost of mailing ballots to voters who didn't know that they opted into receiving them, makes at least the conversation worthwhile.
Right, right. Thank you. And again, you've given us another comprehensive memo. You always give us plenty of info to consider. So I'll go to board members first.
Public.
Oh, sorry, the public. I forgot it was a public hearing. Anybody from the public want to speak to this item? Here,
Move that we close the public hearing?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Madam
now,
Chair,
thank you.
I move that we vote to opt out of the vote by mail for the annual town election on May 21st.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Julie, could I request that that be a roll call
Sure,
vote? It's
I'll do
actually
a roll
required
call.
under the.
Michael?
Thank you.
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Emily. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you.
So we'll go on to the 2024 annual town meeting.
Madam Chair, would it be okay to take new business A out of order? We have the group in from Standish Woods.
Oh, yeah, no, we should do that, yeah. So we'll go to the Phase 3 sewer project. Review, approve, and execute the orders of taking for the sewer pump stations, private road, utility infrastructure for Phase 3 sewer project. And then, Joe, we referred to our updated info in the email that we got.
So what is coming around now, if I could ask Mr. Howell to take one, it's a multi-page document, it's double-sided, and it updates, as Mr. Olgren had said, and as your email shows, there was an omission, unintentional, and I'm grateful for them notifying me so that council could correct it. So what you have under item A is a proposed order of taking regarding 3 sewer pump stations for Phase 3, as outlined on your agenda for 43 Chestnut Lane, 0 Standish Woods Circle, and 3 Wilmer's Way. And then you have a more comprehensive list related to private roads for the utility infrastructure for the related work. So what you're being asked to do this evening is first to discuss the order of taking, if you wish. At some point, I would ask that you either develop a process for negotiating for the parties identified in the first section of the agenda, because there are damages that are outlined for those properties, for these takings. Of course, as you may recall from the notice to relevant abutters, they were offered the opportunity to come tonight to be aware of it. It's certainly your discretion if you wish to take discussion, but in the end, the town needs to execute the 2 separate orders of taking, the one that relates to 3 pump stations and the other that relates, I believe, to the 19 properties for utility infrastructure, all of which is related to Phase 3 construction for wastewater, which, as you've heard several times, and in fact have participated in the community forums, are going to be, again, in East Harwich, in and around the Pleasant Bay area.
Thank you, Joe.
So then the only other item, if I could, regarding the order of taking for the pump stations, I want to specifically direct your attention to page 2, and it is a new paragraph. It's the 4th paragraph. It was an indemnification that the wastewater superintendent and I have been talking with some of the potentially affected parties. We worked with town council, and town council added that language because we had earlier said that the town has no objection to that language. So for the document that relates to the 3 pump stations, that's the only difference between what you got over the weekend and what you're being asked to discuss this evening.
Thank you.
Everything else remains the same.
Board members want to have any discussion points? Michael?
I just would like to hear from the town administrator. Is this your recommendation along with the water wastewater superintendent?
It is. So again, these takings are necessary for the town to move forward on Phase 3 of the projects. And, you know, with regard to the potential damages, it would also be my recommendation that you vote to direct me to negotiate on behalf of the town's behalf, recognizing that I will interface with the parties. However, any final agreement still has to come back to the board for final agreement on damages to be awarded, if any.
Thank you. And what would be the time period for that?
Well, we want to, I think it's in everyone's best interest to get this process done as quickly as possible. The reason for the order of takings this evening is to have them recorded tomorrow with the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds, and that helps us as we continue with the State Revolving Fund and Clean Water Trust as we progress towards their funding of our two massive contracts, all of which is scheduled to happen before the end of the fiscal year.
Right. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Do you have any other follow-up questions?
No, I would just make a motion if you'd
Oh,
like.
all right, unless anyone, do either of you? Okay, go ahead.
I move that we approve and execute order of taking for sewer pump stations, 43 Chestnut Lane, 0 Standish Woods Circle, 3 Wilmers Way, as presented and as submitted, amended this evening. And further to ask the town administrator to negotiate damages on our behalf.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. 4-0. Do
It
you
it
want
may
a
be
roll
helpful.
call?
Thank you. Yeah,
Michael?
give for the recording.
I'm doing a roll call.
Aye.
Yeah. Jeff?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. 4-0.
Thank you. And then, Madam Chair, if I could, through you to the folks assembled, so now that I've been so authorized, I can reach out to the various representatives. There are 3 separate parties related to the 3 separate properties. I've already made contact with all of them, and I can reach out tomorrow to start that process.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for coming this evening.
So then, related to that, but still listed under item, new business item A, would be the order of taking for the properties listed and for the purpose of utility infrastructures. These are easements on private roads, that's why you're asked to take it in that manner.
So do you want me to read out the road names? Right, or do you want to make a motion?
Part of the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want me to make the motion? I'm sorry. I thought you were going to do it, Mr. McCann.
I thought he was.
I move that we approve and execute orders of taking for sewer pump stations.
Nope,
Sorry.
private utility infrastructure.
Sorry. I move that we approve and execute orders for private utility infrastructure on the private roads to include Bascom Hollow, Brothers Lane, Caldwell Lane, Lily Lane, Live Oak Drive, Perry Way, Scribner's Terrace, Walden Way, Washburn Way, Wilmers Way, and McGurty Road.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So, Madam Chair, if you could bear with me for a moment, I
Yep.
was caught flat-footed going from town meeting to this item. I want to make sure I have the correct documents in front of me as well as, so I can advise the board. So in your packet, you have what should be a 19-page document. The order of taking, as was just mentioned, relates to permanent easement, utility easements in, on, under, or across the parcels of land in Harwich, in the roadways that you referenced for the record, and they are referred to collectively as the easement premises. And then if you look at Exhibit A in your document, it has a greater description of the plans and the specifications, or excuse me, the specific information regarding those properties. That goes from page 4 all the way through page 19. And then in this instant, or in both instances, we have documents where we would ask that the board execute these this evening, so again, they can all be recorded tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I apologize, who seconded?
Don-
Michael did.
Michael did.
Thank you.
So, got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, 4-0. And we might as well do B
If you could give me one quick second, I want to
while we're
make sure
there.
we get these documents around.
Oh, and actually, we don't have to go to B. We could go back to A.
town meeting?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
just wait for everybody.
Yep, sure.
We'll go back to item 6,
Right.
subsection A. Dawn's just signing these and I'll circulate. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you.
I didn't sign them yet.
Okay.
Go ahead. So we have the discussion and possible vote to accept, recommend, and place the following articles in the 2024 annual town meeting warrant.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, I think I'm literally back on the same page. And I can certainly walk you through updates and changes since your last meeting
Thank you, Joe.
and what you have in your packet. So the first bullet point refers to the Monomoy Middle School project. As you know, you heard the presentation last week by Michael McMillan, the business manager for the Monomoy Regional School District. So what you have in your packet is draft Article 9, but that accomplishes the board's vote last week of directing me to have council create the article. That's what you see there. And related to this, under item number 7, 2024 annual town election, would be the corresponding debt exclusion, because your guidance was to have this article contingent upon a successful debt exclusion at the annual town election. So draft Article 9 has been created by council, reviewed by council, and also reviewed by bond council for both the article and the question.
All right, thank you, Joe. Michael?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 9, Monomoy Middle School project in the annual town meeting warrant,
Second.
Moved and seconded.
just to add in the amount of 2.5 million.
Thank you.
estimated.
Did you have something, Don?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0?
4-0.
Thank you. Next item on your list is draft Article 21. This was the presentation that Mike Locke and Tom Evans provided for the Harwich Conservation Trust last week. Again, it's in your packet as Article 21, and it accomplishes, I believe, everything that the folks were looking for. So, again, this would be one that you would be asked to accept, recommend, and place into the warrant.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
I move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 21, acquisition of conservation restriction on the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Michael, sure.
Actually, you don't have to hand that out, Tom. I'm going to just address it here. Thank you. Hi, I'm Michael Locke, Executive Director of the Harwich Conservation Trust. I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the discussion. We received an appraisal, which means, on Friday, this past Friday, which means the overall authorization can be reduced. I believe in the draft warrant article, it's at 2.7 million. That can be reduced to 2 million. So
that's good
just
news.
wanted to share that news, up-to-date information. Tom Evans, Board of Trustees, President of HCT, is here, and if you have any questions, we also have remotely Mark Robinson, Executive Director of the Compact of Cape Cod Conservation Trust, and Kelly Grant, Land Protection Specialist with the Compact. Thanks.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful news. Any board members have any questions on it? Jeff?
I do. Michael, if you don't mind, thank you for being here tonight. I just want to reiterate for the public that this is not going to cost the town of Harwich a dime. That's correct, what you said last week, right?
That's correct. No net capital cost to the town. Yes.
That's all I wanted to make sure we all heard again.
Good to underscore.
100%.
Yes.
Thank you for all your work.
Sure. Thank you.
So we had a motion and a second, and we're about to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
I move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 22, expenditure of funds from sale of 276 Queen Anne Road, the amount of $1,500,001.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in, go ahead.
So it's referring to $1,500,005 and $1, is that what you said?
Should be just $1.
Thank you. So we'll take out the second 5. So $1,500,001.
$1,
Thank
right.
you.
That's my understanding.
That's,
Is that the entire amount then?
That is the entire amount from the sale of that property.
That's,
Kathleen? Thank you. Joe?
Who seconded on that?
Jeff.
Don can have it if he wants.
you have a coin?
Just waiting for clarification on that. I think that's what the article says, but. Do you want to move on to the next one while we wait on that one? Sorry, it just takes a couple minutes. So,
So I would do, Madam Chair,
Where are we, 23?
I move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 23, correct 2023 Annual Town Meeting Article 24 on the Annual Town Meeting warrant.
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor? Joe?
Just a quick explanation.
Sure.
This is related to community preservation. That's why the placement is adjacent to all their articles. But the act of correction supersedes that, so people will see that it was last year's community preservation, and it will lead us into this year's community preservation articles.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay, you ready, Kathleen? You want us to go back?
So,
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I could, Articles 24 through 36 are the community preservation articles. These articles were vetted by me, the Finance Director, Town Council, and members of the Community Preservation Committee. These have all been approved as to form, and so typically these are listed as by request of community preservation, but of course you folks would be asked to place and offer your thoughts on recommending.
Michael?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept, recommend, and place Articles 24 through 36 Community Preservation Committee articles as presented
Second.
on the Annual Town Meeting warrant.
Thank you. Moved and seconded.
If I could, was that accept, or was that recommend and place?
Accept, recommend, and place.
Thank you,
And it was seconded by Dawn.
thank you.
Any other discussion on these items? Any one of them? All in favor? 4-0.
Thank you.
We have representatives from the Bank Street project in the room just to say how amazing that looks. Great job, great work for the town. And members of Harwich Conservation Trust.
Madam Chair, member of the board, Mr. Town Administrator. We've come a long way in a year. We couldn't have done that without Affordable Housing Trust money, community preservation money, and the support from all the boards in town, Board of Selectmen, everybody. It's really, really starting to really take shape. Harwich Conservation Trust, they have an article with this as well. We're hoping to get this all done so we can back all the machinery out of there at the same time, get the parking lot done, and you people will be able to use the trails again. So thank you so much for all your support.
Thank you, and what a great project it is, and such a great collaboration. So, and next time we go to the trails, I won't wear my patent leather shoes.
Goes right there.
I have them on tonight.
As long as we're doing this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do want to take the opportunity to mention to the public at large, because there's been a lot of things floating around on social media, that what they are seeing there outside of the fire building restoration is the bog restoration for repurposing it for an amelioration project. It is not finished. It has just begun. So as people are saying that it's all torn up and it's all messed up, it's all part of a plan that's going to be completed over the next year, I guess.
Thank you, John. Next one is the repurpose.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 37, repurpose 2013 Annual Town Meeting, Article 31 for the library trustees in the annual town meeting warrant.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0, Madam Chair.
Yes, 4-0. Seconded by Don.
If I could, next on your list is actually draft Article 43, which I believe you had discussion on both Articles 43, 44, and 45, but had only had the opportunity to accept, recommend, and place Article 45. So Article 43, this captures under General Bylaw, Chapter 7. These were the requested changes in composition for the Board of Health to allow for 2 alternate members. So that's what that article gets to, and it is presented for your hopeful acceptance, recommendation, and placement.
Madam Chair, I believe the finance director is ready.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, sorry,
You have to just go up to the podium so everybody at home can hear you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My apologies for the delay. The proceeds of the sale is $1,505,001. So it's $1,505,001.
Thank
you.
So the article as written is correct.
Is correct, so we don't have
And
to...
all the question really is that the amount that we're talking about tonight equals the proceeds from the original purchase.
Certainly. Yes.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, it had been moved and seconded to accept, recommend, and place Article 22, which the Finance Director just confirmed the original amount of $1,505,001 is correct.
Right. We voted on,
Nope.
did
No, we
I?
didn't.
I
We
didn't take
passed
the
it
vote.
over.
I did.
Correct.
I held off, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 43, amend General Bylaw, Chapter 7, in the annual town meeting warrant as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 44, amend General Bylaw, Chapter 271, in the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Madam Chair, if I could.
Sure.
So this article actually captures 2 actions under the one article, but that comports with your discussion earlier this calendar year with the Bylaw Charter Review Committee. So first, you can see that it looks to amend Chapter 271, Section 3,
The actual plan.
and that was the discussion of, sorry.
Sorry, I don't, he was just asking me a question. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Section 3, which was the discussion about the moderator shall allow non-voters, non-resident department heads to speak. Section 16 of that same chapter was the discussion on the votes of the Select Board and Finance Committee being included, which of course syncs you up with the earlier charter amendment.
Yeah, great.
But this one article does accomplish the 2 amendments that you have been talking about.
Thank you, Joe. And just for clarification too, so people know that the zoning bylaws that we have talked about over the course of the, we're not dealing with those until a fall town meeting, if we do move forward with the fall town meeting.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Michael, you,
Is that, did we do the
Don
vote on-
seconded it,
Yes.
right? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 38, fund the fiscal year 2024 wastewater debt in the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Sorry, Madam Chair. This is the article that had been referenced at prior meetings and has been created and vetted by council. So you had been aware of it, but this is now accomplishing a transfer to make sure we have funds available fiscal year 2024 for wastewater debt in the amount of $858,742.
Thank you, Joe. So moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye. Madam Chair, members of the board, the next one listed is presently numbered, because you number them as they come in, as Article 51. This was the article presented by the town moderator, and as you can see, it relates to electronic voting at town meetings, and specifically requests that the town raise and appropriate a transfer from available funds a sufficient sum of money to provide for the option of electronic voting at town meetings. So while you have been aware of this topic, we have not yet discussed available funds that could be relied upon in the motion to fund that article. So definitely ask you to accept, recommend in place, but now's a good time to have a conversation about how we're gonna fund it.
Go ahead.
Do you want a motion for discussion?
Yeah, thanks.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 51, electronic voting tabulators on the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Moved and seconded for discussion.
That was my question, Joe. Where are we gonna get the money?
So my understanding is that your discussion last week, there was commentary about articles that have unspent balances. I believe the amount was over 183. I didn't know if that was available, but I'd ask my colleague to present to see what funds may be available for this article.
Thank you. Kathleen?
Madam Chair, Kathleen Barrett, Finance Director. I do not have any reference to how much the amount is that we're looking for that would be relevant to the process.
I thought that we heard, and I could be wrong, but when we talked about this in past, it was either 15 or 20,000 that Chatham originally allocated. I could be wrong, but I thought that was a general number we were thinking when we first started discussing this.
Are we leasing or are we buying?
Well, if I may, I think the TA's question was, could we use that $180,000? Is that available for us to use? Was that the question you asked?
Correct, thank you.
Yeah. So instead of discussing the cost.
Yeah, no, you're
I'd like
right.
to know
Yeah.
whether or not that money is available.
I just wanted to make sure that we had the proper articles that would fund it.
Yeah, of course.
I had no idea how
And-
much it cost.
Yeah, I'm not coming after you
Yeah,
here. I just
no,
want to
no,
know if
just-
the answer to the question is what the
Yeah,
answer to the
so in
question-
other words, is the 183,000, to your question, completely available? Is that, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the question. Is that correct?
I think it's a fair question for the select board to ask the finance director
Yeah.
for available funds.
Right.
Yes, there are
So-
available funds in that amount. There are 3 articles, one of which had been proposed as being used for grant matching funds for the fire department.
Mhm.
So it's probably prudent to exclude that from the equation.
Yeah,
But there was 122,000 and change article, as well as one for about 37,000.
okay.
So approximately between 150, 160,000 would be
Still available.
safe to say is available for
Okay.
something like this.
Sorry, go.
Jeff? No, go ahead.
Oh, Kathleen, you had mentioned the fire department and excluding that. What were the other two? Where did those two come from?
One is for the, it was a parking lot project that has since been completed. And, of course, I had looked at it quite a while ago. Yeah, there was a parking lot project, and the one for 122,000 was from the fire department. It was for radios, public safety radios, that they believe that they obtained grant funding instead.
Okay, so in your opinion, there's nothing that should prohibit
Those
us
should be
from
available,
being,
certainly.
okay.
And
Thank you.
and so thank you for that. And so
Certainly.
back to, I think, the original discussion when we were trying to ballpark what it would be. And to Dawn's question, I would think it would be lease.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, A, we got the money right
Right.
now. Lease is a different number than that, and we're probably going to want to make a motion that identifies sweeping the 1 or 2 of those articles for that available funds at the same time as we're funding this. So those are 2 things we don't know yet, is, what the cost of the lease would be, and
Right. What would be the time frame on getting an estimate on the cost of leasing those versus purchasing?
So I took the liberty of stepping away from the microphones to talk to a resident expert who shall be unnamed. Thank you.
On that side of the room.
Generally speaking, I think other Cape Cod communities that have done it, and if we're contemplating at least the 2025 annual town meeting, I think it's a safe estimate to say from 15 to say 30,000, and that's the high end on the 30,000. For the purposes of this article, I think you have, well, I would recommend you have sufficient information to place, and then as we progress towards the motions meeting,
Okay.
early next month, we would then confirm all of these funding sources.
Okay, that's fine.
So, that's fine.
I didn't
that's
know if
great.
you, okay,
Just
perfect.
wanted to make sure that I didn't say it was okay and then find out it's too
Yeah,
much.
no, we appreciate that.
And that's all I was saying, is that the destination point is, Joe was recommending that it is, but we can put it on and
And get that information.
get that underway.
Okay, so we had the motion to accept, recommend, and place. You seconded it, didn't you? Right.
Yep.
So all in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
No, I'm opposed.
Oh, you are? Okay, so 3 are in favor, and then all opposed?
One, me.
Michael? Aye.
Thank you.
3-1.
Thank you, folks. And then item B is to bring back the conversation on 3 articles, but also I will inform you of a 4th that will come back next week, which all of that renders item C moot for this evening, but a guy can hope, can't he? So no reason to close the warrant tonight. But in a moment, I would recommend you bring your discussion back to Article 4, which is the town operating budget, and the article that concerns itself with adopting the capital plan. And again, that article has the resultant Appendix C, which is in your materials.
Can you say, I mean, we have 369 pages here. I kind of lost my place where Appendix C is, and it doesn't follow in sequence.
So I'm going off of a paper copy. I can certainly peek on your.
Does anybody know?
I don't, I think it's at the, I thought
I
it
got the article, but I just don't have Appendix C.
thought it followed all the, let me go back.
We get there, Madam Chair. I move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 4, Town Operating Budget in the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So, yes, please, if you could give me a quick moment.
I'm trying to find that document as well.
You looking for C, Appendix C?
Yeah, because that is the capital plan. It lays out.
Yeah.
So if, I apologize, actually, if I could just finish one quick thought. You have Article 4, you have Article 16. You're going to have to reconsider Article 19 for updated information. And next week, you'll be presented with the supplemental appropriation article. I think you may recall that was something that the water wastewater superintendent and I had talked about. So we do have that vetted by council and bond council. So that will be presumably Article 52. So if you're now progressing to under item B, Article 4, the town operating budget also has a relevant Appendix B from the Finance Department. So is everybody on that page?
We were looking at C, which is on page 91.
So that's the next article. We're first talking
Yeah.
about Article 4.
So we're going
if I
back
could.
now.
Yep.
I'm on page 90.
Is that Article 4?
Yes.
Thank you. So if you see on your electronic version of page 90, I want to advise you to a scrivener's error. And that's what's being passed around this evening for the board members. Actually, sorry, Don, I'll take one for Kathleen. Thank you. Thanks. So in the, well, sorry.
Chair?
So in the section under the scope of the article that says by request of the select board, and then it makes reference to the budget, which is Appendix B, the estimated cost, I think, was the incorrect number. In that one line, it is correct at the end of the operating budget line, and it is correct at the end of Appendix B. So the correct number that should appear after the phrase estimated cost is $45,732,309.
Which was part of my motion,
Thank you.
for the record.
So moved and seconded.
And then, Madam Chair, perhaps as part of your discussion, I would like to update you that the Finance Director and I participated in the Finance Committee's public hearing on the operating budget. I remain to help them with some of the articles that were there. I can do a more in-depth report later if you'd like, but the dollar amount, if I'm correct, the dollar amount of $4,732,309 is the correct number, is the number that we expect to have going forward, unless there are any changes before the article or the warrant are adopted.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Any, hold on, did you second that? Okay, so Don seconded. All in favor?
Just if,
Oh,
back to
sorry.
discussion, I apologize. The 8.1% is a tall ask, and departmental budgets are 5.5%. The rest were enhancement of, well, there was a lot of enhancement of services voted by this board. And that, to me, seems like the will of the people. Those are all conversations that we've had multiple times. And then asks, one being fire, the other being DPW, and then the largest one, I believe, is, well, not the largest one, the new position of the Human Resource Director. Which brings administrative costs way up. The other part of this is contractual obligations. Just so the public's clear, our debt, total debt service went up 39.1%. Barnstable County Retirement, 9.8%. Group health insurance, 8%. So some of these costs are really outside of our control. But looking forward, we shouldn't be putting out budget messages that say 1.5% when it's not realistic at all. So looking at next year, I think we need to spend a lot more time on what a reality would be for the increase. And then to further that, the different board members wanted different things, and I think it would be very easy for the board to create a policy on what we expect to come along with the budget message from the town administrator and the finance director as part of our budget. Budget books do change year to year depending on who the finance director is, so everybody does things a little bit differently, but I don't think it would take us long to create a policy stating what exactly we want. And then the other thing that we desperately need to work on, and we talk about every year at this time, and then we put it to bed until this time the following year, is a timeline that actually makes sense, so that we're not rushing through things in the end. So I would ask for support from the board in June or July at the latest to come up with a real timeline that gives Finance Committee gives us more time and would allow for greater discussions. So I would ask that we get that at least to the top of our priority list going forward, so we're not scrambling in the end.
So I also think that that's a great topic for the goals and objectives that are going to be coming our way in the next month after we get through with all of these items, because we do talk about it every single year. Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To play off of what Michael just said, first of all, I want to thank Kathleen for sending what she sent, but it is a massive amount. So I would kind of like to see that every year, but given that, Michael's right, we would probably want to pull there's nothing that you did wrong. We probably want to pull the time frame back so that we could look at something that's that thick and actually make sense of where we might be able to pull things. Secondly, I'll go one step further than what Michael was saying. Just because we have the capacity to afford some things that we don't have any choice over this year doesn't necessarily mean we dynamically have the ability to keep funding that over the next 4, 5, 6 years. Because some of these things assume, a growth rate and obviously 2.5%, but new growth and other things. I would caution everybody that next year can't look like this. I mean, we took 9 positions, we absorbed them last year. We're putting some enhancement of services in this year. we really need to think carefully about what out years look like to be able to continue funding things, because we're taking on commitments where I don't want to see anybody laid off 4 years after we just brought them on. It's really important to be able to make sure that we have some sort of dynamic assessment of both the receipts and our obligations, assuming the contract obligations, for instance.
Thank you, John.
Last comment, Julie, if I may.
Sure.
Kathleen, thank you for sending the Munis logs for everything. It was actually very helpful. And now I feel like I'm an expert at Munis.
Still don't like Munis,
I
but
don't.
thanks for your reports.
You know, one thing that strikes me, though, is if you look at those documents and past year's documents, there's a lot of line items that never change, whether it be a $3,000 line item. It just carries over year after year after year. So one thing I'm going to be asking for at the end of the year is to look at, and the police department did give it to me this year based on their number, turnbacks every year, what's not spent. And Don mentioned zero-based budgeting, and we did discuss that 7 or 8 years ago. And maybe not as a whole, but department budgets seem to start at a number, and then we add a percentage to it, and we're just happy with that every year. We never look at those lines that never change. And there was 15 to 20 lines that have never changed. So that's gonna be something, Julie, that I ask that we look at department turnbacks over a 3-year period and look at these line items that actually never change.
And I think that because to the point earlier, that we have these conversations and then we trail off of them, I think we should, when we do our goals and objectives, really hone in on those things that we, want to see and want to review and all of that, so that we don't continue to talk about it after. Joe? Couldn't remember your name.
Hey, you was fine, or the guy down there. First, I want to thank the board for having this conversation tonight and for, emphasizing that we'll be talking about it again in May and June. And I'm grateful for you, to you for that. And it gets to what I emphasized when I first started. Town meeting for everybody in the organization is a full year effort. And having that great conversation in May or June, I think, just solidifies that, and I think the town's going to be very well served with that. So thank you. Building off of what you have for the draft Article 4, and thank you, Select Board Member McCaskill. I believe in your packet, you essentially have 2 versions of Appendix B. So you have the standard, which is the portrait size, which comports and shows what we've usually seen. And then you had the landscape one, which was meant to meet the directive of the board last week. So I want to emphasize that there is base level language that was added on the last page of that landscape document. I will incorporate that unless the board objects. I don't think you will, but I'll incorporate that in greater detail on the portrait version of Appendix B. And I would like to include language in the explanation as well, because I just think the combination of those two goes a long way towards providing transparency and inclusion. And then last but not least, if I could echo what the board members have said, you've gone through a tremendous process. We're not done yet, but we are getting there. And for me, you've made it clear you have a budget that is a statement of your priorities, and that's what we would want every year, year in and year out. It's certainly for my opinion, the voters and taxpayers and residents of the town to know. So I congratulate you on that effort as well.
Thank you, Joe. Want to go on to the,
We got to vote on it.
I didn't, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
It's a big thing.
It's, yeah.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 16, adopt the capital plan on the annual town meeting warrant.
Is anyone going to second?
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded.
Madam
Michael?
Chair, if I could beg the indulgence of
Yep.
closing up my book and getting to that next section.
Did you want to go?
I just want to ask a question of the town administrator. So the question is, and you explained it to me and I understood your explanation, and I believe you explained it to the Finance Committee, and I think almost all understood your explanation. Brooks Academy Museum is off of the capital plan now, and we are intending to bring that to a fall town meeting. Why would we take it, can you just explain to everybody why we would take it off the capital plan and not leave it on there, as you did for me?
Thank you, and I will start out by emphasizing, well, first, did everyone find Appendix C? Thank you. Because that, I think, is really where the information gets to Article 16. So what I tried to explain, and I say that truly, I'm hopeful that I've landed on that, but it is, it's parliamentary procedure stuff, and it's never usually straightforward. But, however, there is not a funding source that accomplishes what was envisioned under the capital plan for Brooks Academy Museum in fiscal year '25. Therefore, I removed it and had the conversation with the board, conversation with the finance committee, and it comes back to you tonight, because I would still argue that in the end, this warrant, these documents, everything that's presented that you support is your action. And I then become one of your lead proponents of all that. I am suggesting that if we remove it from fiscal year 2025, knowing that there's a better than even chance that we could have a special town meeting later in the fiscal year 25, first, you can amend the plan that was presumably adopted at town meeting on May 6th or 7th, and you would be amending it by adding the plan back, because now presumably you have a funding source for that. And to do so goes back to the discussion that we have had, the past few years, if you will, which amending an existing approved plan requires a 2/3 vote. So you could vote to put that in an out year, such as 2026. And that would be reflected in the appendix, and it would go forward and all that. If you wanted to then amend the plan in the fall, you would still have to do the 2/3 vote to take it from 26 to 25. So it really makes no matter to me, so-called, whichever you choose. I felt that it was being more transparent to not have it on the plan for 25, but I'm not opposed to anything that continues the conversation. So it really is, at this point, really a directive of the board.
Thank
I
you.
hope that answered the question that the member was looking
Yeah,
for.
no, crystal clear.
Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. But alternatively, I think we all agree the capital plan authorizes us to move forward in various directions, whatever is listed in the capital plan. And then in order for it to actually be operative, it has to have a second article that funds it, correct?
Or separate sets of articles.
Whatever, one or more articles that would actually do it. I don't understand, if we were going to go to a fall meeting, why we wouldn't just leave the amount in the capital plan for the Brooks Academy under the assumption that we're going to take a follow-on action. It doesn't have an article associated with it to actually fund it. So, but it's still a priority of ours. And you'd have to go through the rigmarole of amending the capital plan in October, say, when all you'd really have to do is put a funding article in if we had this accepted as is, with the amount in there. You're not actually funding the resultant project in the capital year, but you're showing it as a number, and it's got a placeholder then. And any time in fiscal '25 that we choose that we want to come up with an article to actually fund it, say in a fall town meeting, you wouldn't have to amend the capital plan at all then.
Well, Joe, I have a follow-up on that. So if we were to incorporate a number into the capital plan, bring it to town meeting, understanding that we don't specifically have a funding source for that, would not that require some type of disclosure on the actual plan? Because how can we say the monies are set aside and yet vote it? I mean, I guess my point is, Don, when I think that through, I'm thinking you're going to have to amend the capital plan on town meeting floor anyway, because how can you say you're funding something and it's in your plan if you don't know you have identified
Capital plan doesn't
resources?
fund anything. The capital plan
it's-
sets priorities within which you have articles that fund those priorities.
I know that, because we've had lengthy conversations about whether or not the capital plan is written in stone, or if it's a document that is amenable. So I guess I'm unclear on why we would put it in the capital plan, and I'm looking for clarification further. I heard what you said, but I think the fall town meeting makes a little more sense. Any other comments from board members?
I'd like to hear his answer.
Joe, do you have a response to my question in the sense of putting it on there and then,
Well, I apologize, I didn't necessarily hear what the question was. And I'm not trying to be fresh or anything, honestly. I think the point you made is one that I would agree with. I think there is, well, I'll say it this way perhaps. In my tenure here, everything that I've ever presented to you has been balanced. And then by extension, everything that you've presented to town meeting has been balanced. So I would be concerned that there may be some that consider that capital plan to be out of balance. But again, we can add language to the explanation under Article 16. It's your document.
okay,
You can do as you please, and then on any of these, I and others stand ready to explain and to justify.
thank you. Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just concerned that what the message overall is, because if you don't have that, you got a building that doesn't have a waiver on it right now. It's not really ADA compliant. It doesn't have a certificate of occupancy, as near as I can tell, from talking to the various members of the Brooks Academy Commission. And it begs the question to the public, okay, if it's zeroed out all the way across, you're still going to have a discussion on it about what the plan is, because you can't leave the building that way with it not being used. So what I'm suggesting is you leave it there, you say you're not funding it, but when you do have the availability, it's already been voted on the capital plan for fiscal '25. If you come up with the money, then the plan is to get the building open. Otherwise, you have a 5-year set of zeros all the way across. And the total zero for the Brooks Academy Commission. And then you're going to have to explain, okay, why is the building not going to be open? And we're not having any discussion at all about funding anything to make it get open.
Joe?
So for that line under the capital plan, there are dollars that are put in fiscal year 2027 in the amount of $40,000, and in fiscal year '28, $740,000.
That's
Sorry.
Brooks Free Library.
My bad.
It's zeros all across.
I got my Brookses mixed up. Otherwise, I understood the commentary by the board member. I would still maintain that this is a discussion amongst the board, and I can offer any insights.
Thank you, Joe. Any other discussion by board members?
Please. Just, I see where you're both going with this. I kind of see where you're going with it. I just think that there needs to be a funding source. And if in the fall, we have a better understanding of where free cash is going to land, it's an easier package to bring to a fall town meeting. I think as the only person sitting up here who was an end user last year at town meeting, this would have confused me, sitting out there. I would have been very confused. I'm voting on something that has no financial wherewithal. I would, and I totally appreciate where you went with this, TA, where you just removed it, zeros, and what I'm hearing from you is, it is not removed from the capital plan. There's just a different strategy to get there, and that would be fall meeting when we know that there's free cash and we could potentially fund it. Is that what I'm understanding?
Essentially, yes, but I will emphasize again.
Yeah, please.
That's my responsibility as town administrator, to create a capital outlay plan and a budget with the capital outlay committee. We met that obligation. We met the obligation of presenting to you in December. And we all understood that the funding mechanisms were up in the air at the time. So the question now comes to the board about what you want to do. Whatever you end up doing, I think I can assist you in explaining at town meeting.
So if I may, it resonated with me, your capital plan being balanced, and things being balanced, and I get that. And that's where I get to the point of, if there's no funding, there really shouldn't be something presented. I also had a couple of conversations with some people on the commission, and the topic came up of, okay, look, if we get there to the fall, and there's not enough funding sources to do the whole project, there'd be a great way to collaborate with that commission to figure out what the bare minimum is to get it open.
Right.
And find the funding in a lesser amount to then present at fall town meeting. So I support what you did. I do support where we're going with this here. And I like the strategy of it.
And I would add that, I don't think it, falls lightly on this board. We know how much money we've put into that building over the course of time, so we appreciate, the historical asset. It's just that in this scenario where we're looking to see what works and what doesn't work, and going back to fall town meeting to support it again if possible. And if not, as you say, do what's first and the biggest priority. But I don't think that, this board hasn't consistently supported Brooks, and I think they know that too.
I would agree, and for me, it is a priority.
Right.
But there is a funding
Right.
issue, as it sits. So thanks for your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Don?
My only problem is I've never seen this done this way, because it started out in this year, year one, and now it's not on any year. I've seen projects that, for lack of funding, have been pushed off to year 2 or 3 or so, but it's not showing up anywhere now.
Well, I guess to that point, are you saying you'd feel better about it if it showed up in FY '27 or '28 in terms of a number?
26, I'd feel better. At least there'd be some deadline for this, but you're taking this out of the discussion entirely for the entire duration of this capital plan.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that that's what the plan of this board was, or the town administrator.
It's zeros everywhere.
I see that, but I also hear that there's a plan going forward, and I also understand the capital plan is our capital plan, not the town administrators. He made that clear, and I think we all know that. And I think after this town meeting, moving into the fall town meeting, it will be there. I think I don't want to speak for the board. For me, it's a priority to put it on there. I think we need to close the loop on this building and get it accessible. But if the TA is saying that it doesn't matter to him one way or the other where we put anything in here, I guess I'd be open to listening.
Oh,
But I'd like to understand what the ramifications, the potential negative ramifications are if we put it in '26. I guess I just don't understand the whole.
Well, the reason I would hesitate on that is because of past discussions on when we've believed that the capital plan is a plan. It's not written in stone, right?
Oh,
And
of course,
And it can change.
right.
And so Dawn feels differently about that, so that would be my hesitation, is right now we're saying we don't have a funding source, so zeros make sense to me. But we're committed to bring it back in the fall if we have the monies.
And if
So-
not, there's a backup plan to that.
Right, right. Michael?
To Don's point on, for fall, obviously, we've got a long way to go, we gotta get through.
Thank you. Point well taken.
But once we find out the amount, we certainly can work between now and then with Brooks Academy Museum Commission on a priority list. And then we can, if we don't have all the money, we can plug in the other projects in a correction in this plan by 2/3 vote, correct? So we can come up with all of or part thereof for fall, and then add back into the plan anywhere we see fit.
Yeah.
The difference, correct?
Yeah, go ahead.
Correct, and it gives me the chance to remind that even though there's zero value on, $0 on the plan, we, the town, through facilities maintenance, and I would want that department included as well, obviously, but there are funds available, and we are pursuing architectural support to aid in that conversation as well. So even though there's no funding available and sought in May of 2024, there are still ongoing projects and work that can tie into that perfectly.
Thank you, Joe. So where were we with this now? Did we have a second?
We did.
We've talked about it so
We
much.
did.
There was a second, yes.
All right, so moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
So 3-1.
If I heard the town administrator correctly, he wanted to hold off on the next one and the vote to close.
No, if I may, I would draw your attention to the next one, which is item B, and it's regarding the capital outlay plan items funded from water retained earnings.
Yep.
So there is a correction, had an opportunity to meet with the finance director, administration team, and the water wastewater superintendent to add back the $1,750,000 for the Pleasant Lake Avenue tank painting. Sorry, my pages aren't playing along. And if I can bring you back to the Appendix C, that is restored to Appendix C capital plan under the Water Department, and they were able to confirm. I believe the Water Wastewater Commissioners met on March 14th to vote to do this, and so I had missed that when I returned on the 19th. So I believe the appropriate action would be for the board to vote to reconsider your accept, recommend, and place, because it's an updated number. I do, however, recommend that you support Article 19 as it's presented this evening. And if I could, that is for capital outlay projects funded from water retained earnings and borrowing in the amount of $2,402,000.
I move that we reconsider previous vote on capital outlay plan items funded from water retained earnings.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.
Further move that we accept, recommend, and place Article 19 capital outlay plan items funded from water retained earnings in the amount of $2,402,000.
Second.
In the annual town meeting warrant.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And we're holding on C.
Yes, and first of all, thank you for that, and I appreciate your patience on those matters. And so again, just as a reminder, next week you will be presented with draft Article 52, and that was the, as you can see in the, hopefully you have the draft table of contents. Article 52 is referred to presently as a placeholder supplemental appropriation for Phase 3 watershed management plan construction contracts. Again, the superintendent did an excellent job at your budget workshop on March 2nd talking about that. It fell through the cracks. I apologize for the confusion. Council has created it, bond council has reviewed it, so certainly be looking for that one to be added next week. And then, given that the Finance Committee met last Thursday for their public hearing, and that they're meeting tomorrow evening, March 26th, I'm hopeful that we have all of the recommendations and votes, and certainly explanations so that you can vote to close the warrant on April 1st, so then we can then begin the process of printing and shipping it over to the Chronicle for publication.
Thank you, Joe. Michael?
On that, Joe, and kind of going back to the dispositional land on Queen Anne Road, as well as the conservation restriction articles, if we could get maps into the warrant of those lots, and then maybe even a description. It's easy to say map 52 parcel 61, which means nothing to most. But if we could say a piece of land in between the self-storage on Queen Anne Road and Mitchell Landscape with their addresses, and then after the bus company, but before the next session of bays, then people will have a general idea of where they are. But it would be nice to have a written description of that as well as the maps. And same with the conservation restrictions.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Sure.
through you to the member. So I think what I've heard is for Article 21 and Articles 40, 41, and 42, we're going to make sure that we include maps and, could I say, broader descriptions of the parcels?
Perfect.
Thank you.
And then last, Joe, we haven't discussed this yet, but traditional articles generally include fund unpaid bills, fund snow and ice deficit, and then the last one that we've discussed and an appropriation was made by the Water Department, Water Wastewater Commission, the SAP, Sewer Assistance Program. None of those have been presented. Are we going to see those?
It's my understanding that accounting reached out to departments. There are no unpaid bills from prior years that need to be voted at this town meeting. Snow and ice deficit, given the small amount, we were going to handle it as a transfer through the select board later this fiscal year. And the sewer assistance program, it was my understanding, if I could take a moment, Article 8, I thought, so it was my understanding that Article 8 of the wastewater department budget includes, if you're looking at that one, I'm sorry, I don't know what page it is in the electronic version. It was my understanding that they incorporated the sewer assistance program into their budget, and that the reference to the 100,000 from retained earnings comes from,
Kathleen, if you have clarification, can you come up to that?
so if I could,
Oh, sure, go
yeah,
ahead, Joe. I just meant if there was
right,
different information.
well, it's my understanding from the wastewater superintendent that in their retained earnings report, there is $100,000 that is listed as special purpose. So they were looking to rely upon that, and that's why they're referencing it as retained earnings.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just to clarify, there is $100,000 set aside as, it's retained earnings reserved for special purposes, which I believe was in a prior year meeting a few years back. Those funds, I spoke with the Board of Assessor, Richard Waystack, earlier this afternoon about the process. I said that we would be able to move forward with that. There was just some clarification that was required, but as Article 8 is currently written, that $100,000 is a reduction in their, it's a funding source for their budget, their regular budget. It's not the $100,000 for the sewer assistance plan.
Okay, so,
So it's my understanding that we can all have different understandings, but before next week, maybe we can get something concrete, that the water commissioners voted the $100,000 out of their budget, because that was a line item in the budget that they've never used for sewer assistance. So however we set that mechanism up, we want to have that money available by town meeting vote to help people that can't pay for their connections.
Agreed, and I think the question that I had was to make sure that it was, it's vetted legally, and we were able to set it up in such a way and to try to determine which department and method and eligibility process would be involved before we allocate the funds. We just wanted to make sure I knew where to put them.
Okay,
That's what I was still waiting on.
so I would just refer the town administrator through you, Madam Chair, to
Right.
clarify this so that we do not miss the opportunity to help people that need their connections. Whether legal's got to be involved, however we get to that point, and if we need an article, ask KP Law to create for next week so we can vote on it. I'm not telling anyone how to do it, but it would be awful if we missed this at this point.
agreed. Agreed. Joe?
Madam Chair,
Oh, yeah, Richard?
Richard Waystack with the Board of Assessors. We've been talking about this now for the last 6 months, and I agree with Selectman McCaskill that don't want to miss this opportunity. We have the criteria from the Board of Assessors that we utilize for our senior tax credits, our deferral programs. We have a mechanism in place to use that criteria for those in need. And I just don't want to see this opportunity pass us by to create this program. We
Thank you,
worked with the Board of Health and spoke with the wastewater commissioner as well, and we think now's the time to do this.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate that that was my ultimate goal. I just wanted to make sure that we knew how this would work and who would be responsible and where the funds would be transferred to. I think it's more just a matter of logistics than I think that we'll actually end up with the right result.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. Joe?
So if I could, I don't know if Mr. Wastack's still available, but I can't think of a better time than the present to vet where we want the funding to come from and where we want it to exist in the warrant. I would imagine there's any number of potential landing spots for it, but I think it would be helpful this evening to vet that more directly.
Michael?
The only thing I would say, and then I would defer to Richard Waystack, but the only thing I would say, Joe, is that the water commissioners have voted to fund that out of their line item in their budget. Where that goes beyond my expertise. But if memory serves me correct, the Board of Assessors couldn't just put $100,000 into it. It had to come through free cash into the general fund and had to be pulled out of the general fund. But Richard, do you recollect something different?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure.
At our regularly scheduled meeting earlier today, we voted an overlay surplus transfer of 400,000 from our overlay surplus account. We do not have the right under the Department of Revenue to use our overlay account to fund this. What we do have is the criteria. The Board of Health did not want to get involved in vetting anybody for this particular program. We offered as a board and voted as a board to be able to take on the vetting of the project. The funding, if it is coming from wastewater, we can utilize for them. What we as a Board of Assessors will do, will vet anyone who's taking part in this based on criteria we've already established.
Perfect.
So I believe that could be in the explanation that what the assessors are going to do.
Right.
But we should create Article 53 that the I made that number up, Joe. The sewer assistance program be funded by that line item in the water wastewater budget, and then authorize the use of those funds. I think it does have to be an article.
And that the Board of Assessors will do the vetting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, could you repeat your comment? I didn't hear that one.
And that the Board of Assessors would complete the vetting of those applications.
If I can further the conversation, spot on with the article number, if we're adding another one. But I would ask through the finance director, if we believe that wastewater retained earnings special purpose line is suitable for this article of this type.
It's my understanding that the water and wastewater commissioners so designated those funds for that purpose. I don't see, I wouldn't have any means to influence how they use those funds. I just wanted to make sure if there was some question, and because I'm not familiar with it, never came across it, is if you were using those funds to pay people directly, or is there a process? That was just more the question. But if they want to if they have voted to actually transfer those funds from that reserved retained earnings for that purpose, then the funding source can be that in that article.
Okay, thank you. You good? Do you have any other
That
questions?
works. I'll work with council to create Article 53 for that purpose.
Perfect, thank you.
I don't know if Richard.
Richard, did you have a follow-up?
No, just that we have a mechanism to apply the funds. We just need the funds to be able to do it. And if wastewater has voted the funds, and if the town administrator and the finance director are comfortable with that, we will see that the vetting is done, and we will award those funds based on the criteria that have already been established. So
Perfect.
thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much.
And if I could just, Madam Chair, through you, go back, fund unpaid bills, recognize and appreciate the direction from the finance director and the town administrator. It would not be good for the town if we can't pay somebody and something comes up. It
Yeah.
seems like very basic language we use every year. So in Article 54, that we don't have to act on, makes sense to me to have in the warrant, just in case. Because we cannot pay people if it doesn't get voted.
John?
In support of what Michael just said, we can always recommend indefinite postponement of something that's on the warrant. We can't just a week before the town meeting put something on the warrant. So it would seem much safer to leave it there. And if we have to indefinitely postpone it, then we do that.
And can we add a dollar, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Well, to that end, Madam Chair, my concern would be, in past years, we have a table in that article, and to my knowledge, we're not aware of any unpaid bills.
Now,
Right, during the creation of the warrant time.
but over the next 4 weeks, if something were to show up, we could make a motion that incorporates that number. I'm just saying you can't put an article in once we close the warrant.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I don't understand what the scope of the article would be if there's no dollar amount and there's nothing contemplated. Then you put the moderator in the difficult position of having to perhaps say that the article is beyond the scope. So, again, if I could, this is a great conversation and the right time to have it. It's my understanding that the departments were queried and there are no unpaid bills at the time of the creation of the warrant. So that would signal to me that we have an opportunity, if there are bills towards the end of the year, perhaps to do transfers. I would again defer to the finance director on that mechanism. But my concern would be the scope of the article and the specificity of notice. I'm not opposed to the concept.
Yeah. What about a not-to-exceed number?
I'm comfortable, if everyone else is, with the recommendation of,
But I hate to see us end up
I
in
agree,
that.
that's why I brought it up, but to Joe's point, if we don't have the scope of an article, I don't know how we create an article. In past years, we do have a table with
Yeah,
exactly
no,
what
we
they
do,
are.
right.
It's a moving target until the meeting with the finance committee at the beginning of our town meeting first night. Because I know we've changed some dollar amounts, voted different dollar amounts that night. Maybe get back to us next week and we make a final decision, but.
No disagreement. If you could ask the finance director her understanding through the accounting department of where we're at.
Okay,
It's not a thing, as the kids would say, to build an article. It's more to have specificity of notice and the tables and everything else.
so, yeah, do you mind, Kathleen? So on that note,
And if I could,
Yeah,
Madam
go
Chair, before we hear from the finance director, the same could be true for the snow and ice deficit. I believe in talking to the Director of Public Works, in various years, it's either been like mercifully, if I don't jinx us, we had the one major storm that required plowing this season. In similar years, there have been transfers to fund that. But same concept, there's been warrants that have had that article in it as well.
yeah, I hear you. In other words,
perhaps
it's
we
not
can-
the only one that's.
Yeah, unpaid
yeah.
bills and snow and ice
Yeah.
deficit.
Yeah, to be clear, the only benefit of having such a long, drawn-out closing process was we were able to incorporate all bills that came across. We did have a little bit more leeway this year. So I would be extremely surprised if something came up this far into the fiscal year, but I think it's a pretty safe bet to deem that unnecessary.
Okay, all right, so, well,
I'm comfortable with Don paying it if it comes out.
yeah, he brings his checks, so you can just write another
I
check.
heard that you would change your mind entirely about it, and it was all going to be funded through.
He suggested a waiver. And a coupon.
That's what I thought.
And just as, to add to the discussion for snow and ice, we transferred, we did an interdepartmental transfer last year for snow and ice.
Okay,
And I think in the year previous, it was through free cash. So there was only one path for that.
okay. So it sounds like you're very comfortable with us leaving out the snow and ice article that we normally have and the unpaid bills.
Yeah, I mean, just to preclude it, you would have to, the snow and ice deficit, you can include on the recap, so it can be raised along with the taxes. That's the only deficit that you're legally allowed to actually add as a separate line item at the recap, which would then be part of the raise and appropriate for the next year.
Okay.
Or it could be covered under the interdepartmental transfers,
Okay.
which just, for full disclosure, that would, that amount just kind of lessens the amount that's eligible for, that's for free cash.
Free cash, right, okay.
And I think at last, there was a memo from DPW, it was approximately about $112,000 deficit at this time.
Okay.
So pray for nice weather.
Right. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we approve the placement of a debt exclusion ballot question for Monomoy Regional School for our annual town election.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Time out.
Yep.
Please give me a quick moment. Thank you. You've progressed now to annual town election. And yes, as I mentioned earlier, in Article 9 in the annual town meeting warrant, the question that you have in your materials was created by council and approved by bond council. So I did want to emphasize that.
Great.
And I apologize, it was moved. And
Seconded by Dawn.
seconded, thank you.
Right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
Do we need a roll call vote on that?
Oh, do we?
It's always more helpful when you're dealing with
Right.
bond council matters.
Michael?
I only asked Emily because she made us do it last time.
Yeah. Jeff?
I'm an aye.
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 And I'm an aye. 4-0.
Madam Chair, I move we vote to declare the following Queen Anne Road parcels as surplus property. 172 Queen Anne Road, 178 Queen Anne Road, 246 Queen Anne Road.
Second.
Moved
In
and
the spirit of
seconded.
which Mr. McCaskill made his comments about 10 minutes ago, can you identify where those are relative?
Joe, did you have?
Yes, please. So I appreciate the, I gotta get my roller skates out. You're under new business, item B, correct?
Right.
Yep.
And it was moved and seconded.
Yep.
First, for the record, I would just inform you that in preparation for those articles, which I believe are 40, 41, and 42, I hope I got that right, but the articles that relate to the three Queen Anne parcels, we have to go through the prescribed requirement of Chapter 30B, so I had directed the Assistant Town Administrator to reach out to all boards, commissions, committees, and departments, and to specifically ask if there was any municipal use. All of them came back negative. However, there was a suggestion we incorporated for the record, but it would not stop the process you're about to go through. And that was the planning department had suggested that perhaps the proceeds from these sale of lands could be earmarked to support affordable housing needs. However, the town has gone through the required step. There are no departments, committees, commissions, or any other uses contemplated by the town, and therefore I would recommend and suggest that you now declare them to be surplus in support of your articles.
Thank you, Joe.
I would just comment on the comment from planning, and I think that part of the big picture certainly would include some affordable housing, but I think to benefit the entire town, not much different than we're doing this year on 276 Queen Anne Road, that would be a future discussion of this board, both on the setting of prices if town meeting approves it, and then what we're gonna use those funds for later on.
And who seconded?
Dawn?
And the motion was to declare those parcels as surplus, correct?
Yes.
Can you give us an idea where they are in proximity to anything?
Those three lots, I can absolutely, I'm hoping we'll get, well, it will be part of, obviously, the articles, but one of the lots is between the self-storage units, just after Chris Hemian's Lawnmower Shop, across from the DPW, in between the self-storage and Mitchell Landscaping, almost across from the dump. And then the other lot is down a little bit further, the two lots, a little bit further down on the right-hand side, just after the bus company where they store all the buses, and before you get to that big row of bays. But that's where they are.
Thank you, Michael. So any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0. Did you say aye?
Yeah.
Just wanted all the cool stuff.
Attorney Hanley.
Yeah, Attorney Hammer. Madam Chair, I move that we approve a Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 15, seasonal liquor license for Malek Corporation, DBA Value Mart, 435 Route 28.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Is that a renewal, or is it?
That is a
That
renewal.
Yeah,
I just, every time you make a renewal recommendation, that you put the language in there, subject to any terms and conditions that may have been contained in the prior license.
That was part of your motion, right?
I thought that's exactly what I said,
Yeah, that was
Mr. Howell.
definitely part of it.
I understand now, and I'll do it on the next one.
all right, so moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
I move that we approve the following Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, seasonal liquor licenses, as noted in the packet, with conditions previously contained in the prior licenses.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I apologize, I was going through your signature. Was that D1?
That was D1 through 9.
Through 9, all of them.
And the only thing I would say, just, again, not to complicate things, but I don't believe we're changing, back to your
Back to
point,
Don's point.
that we're not changing anybody's license. It's all the same as it was in the previous
Right.
years.
And
That's for
that-
the
as
office,
stated,
too.
with conditions previously contained
That's for the
in
office,
prior
too.
licenses.
Perfect.
Whatever they
That
had
was
as
stated in the
conditions
motion.
in
Thank
last
you,
year's
sorry.
Of course,
license.
no problem.
Julie? Town administrator?
Yep.
Oh,
Sorry, there was multiple conversations going on.
That's,
I
just so,
was,
that's a heads up for the office, just so, I mean, his language on the the motion was that they would contain such terms and conditions as were previously contained on their prior licenses. So if there's something, don't drop it off, just, it'll carry over. with this
Everybody's
motion.
getting the same license that they had last year. Nobody's getting anything different. We're just stating that for clarification.
Thank you. I believe staff has accomplished that.
Yep. So,
Thank you. But there was no vote yet, correct?
no. So it was moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. 4-0.
Madam Chair, could I just beg your indulgence? I think it may be easier for me to review the licenses, hand them to you for signatures as you've voted them. Would that work?
Sure.
Thank you.
Want me to move to letter E, Madam Chair?
Thank you.
Or would you like me to wait a little bit?
Oh, you want us to wait?
If you could, just for a moment, I want to...
Sure, take your time, just hurry.
There's a lot, and we want to make sure we get them done.
It's gonna look very strange to people watching this on YouTube, where everybody's just sitting here staring.
That's fine.
So I believe, Madam Chair, members of the board, what I'm handing Select Board Member Howell represents what you just voted under D1 through 9. I am looking for the item you approved under item C. And then I think I should be back on track with you folks to continue with the remainder. That was a so-called liquor store license, correct? For item C?
Yeah. it was
Item C was a
Malik.
Malik Corporation, Value Mart.
just looking at these to compare them to 10 to 12.
Now, these are 5 licenses, Joe. He voted, he made the motion for 9, I thought.
Correct.
What's the last one you have?
Seagull Suites.
No, I've got Mad
Oh, I'm
Minnow-
sorry,
Mad
Witchmere
Minnow,
Harbor.
3 Monkeys. No, I've got the actual certificates, the signed. There's only 5 of them. There should
You
needs to
only
be
have
9.
5. I see.
So what I do have in front of me is Mad Minnow, 3 Monkeys, Ember, Belmont, the beach, and the weather deck. I don't have the rest of them.
So
Which
you,
would be Perks Dockside and Port Restaurant?
Perks, Snack Shack,
I still
yeah.
need one more.
Witchmere, do you have Witchmere?
I don't
9
have
minus
that one.
5.
I don't have that one yet, but here are the other 3.
Other ones, done.
Okay, there's 5 of these, so it's still, 9 minus 5 is still 4.
Okay, so just making sure, I'm just checking one thing here. 10 AM to 12 AM. And that's weekday.
Otherwise, Jeff will get a phone call tomorrow at 2. Can you come in and sign some licenses you missed?
Here, I'm just gonna give you those, I haven't signed them yet.
Thank you.
Weekday, outside.
Now we're up to 8.
Well, I'm not concerned in the sense that if there's anything different on this agenda versus what we did last year, we don't have to worry because we're sticking with what we did.
Right. Except they still have to be signed, that's what I was kind of hoping.
So I have only uncovered 8 under item D. And I found item C.
Okay, so you got C.
Provide that one for signatures, but I'll continue to look for the 9th one. In the meantime,
Do you know which one you're looking for?
no, but I'll be able to do that when they come back.
Okay.
In the meantime, I think what you have next is entertainment under item E
While he's looking.
for
Sure.
3 Monkeys.
While he's looking, when we're at the entertainment licenses,
Yeah.
as we're looking at Port, now I know we've agreed to allow for, like a radio or television, but we've definitely not allowed for live entertainment and amplification. I'm just pointing that out because that,
Acoustic only, I believe, was
Yeah,
the
it was-
language.
Right,
yep,
acoustic only, and this says 10, right? I'm just making sure I'm not reading this wrong. And we did weekday outside for them last year, 11 AM, not 10 AM.
that's kind of why I'm singling it out, because this is
So-
a particularly sensitive area where there's residences right next to them.
And I guess we could do the same thing, right? I mean, just,
As long as it was for outside entertainment by acoustic entertainment.
yeah, they actually, here for the Port, it says recorded, oh, no, they did. It says
Live or
11
recorded amplification, that's what, we did not do that, and we have not done that.
Inside recorded
outside
live
ones, so-
music amplification.
Inside and outside.
And then here, where it says weekday outside, it's 11 AM to 10 PM, TV background music. That was not amplified.
So, Madam Chair,
See here? This is last year's of what we allowed,
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
what's here
and
is
that's why I was
is
saying.
more than there.
Right, exactly, that's why I was saying, I was looking at that, and if we just make the reference that it should be the same as last year, we cover ourselves.
As to time and as to acoustic performances.
I'll begin with E right now. Joe, are you ready to move to E?
I thought I was.
I'm just saying, I believe that's why we have our
Matrix, yeah.
matrix,
that
so
what
that
this
we
is?
just stick with what we did last year. Nothing changes.
That matrix refers to what they applied for last year, not what we voted
Right.
on the form.
Yeah, not what they're asking for this year, but this is what we gave them last year.
I don't think
It is, I confirmed that.
that was entertainment.
It's inside, right.
I don't know why you're yelling at me.
I'm not yelling at you. It is.
You'll have to excuse me, we used big paper with small words.
So- The agenda
Yeah,
is
all we
what they're
gave them was TV or
requesting.
background music.
Spreadsheet is what we gave them. And the only one looking for something different, I believe, is the
Is
port.
the port, and that's over in the extremes right of the spreadsheet.
And Perks is asking for the same thing, I believe. It was in the
Right.
packet. They requested the same thing they had.
Right.
Yeah, they're all asking for the same thing, except for
Except
port.
for, except for the port.
I understand.
So I think as long as we just make our motion so that it's all the same as last year, just like we did with the other one, I think we're covered.
If you could be explicit enough to say it's the same times and type of entertainment as last year, so that the staff knows that we're not changing the timing, the
Time,
the
type.
entertainment, the time or type.
Time or type, it's all the same. As voted in 2023. All right. Are you good, Joe?
That's him. He's holding us up.
Almost. So I have not been able to locate the 9th license,
Okay,
but
Sends a trip into town hall.
yeah, we'll just sign it tomorrow.
I move that we approve a new 2024 seasonal entertainment license for 554 Street Bar DBA Three Monkeys, 554 Route 28, as noted in the packet, with conditions previously contained in prior years, including time and type.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
well, Madam Chair, if I could, there are several documents coming your way for signatures. The first two require all board members, the last three require the chair. And those are all related to the vote you just took. Thank you.
I move that we approve the following 2024 season common viculars license renewals as noted in packet. No, I don't need to do that. Yes, I do. As noted in the packet with conditions previously contained in prior license of 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
Letter G. I move that we approve the following 2024 seasonal entertainment license renewals as noted in the packet with conditions previously contained in prior years, including time and type, as
Second.
voted in 2023.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, the only discussion is, was it your intention to do 1, 2, 3, 4
Correct.
together? And I think it's important,
Remember to do one at a time?
I think it's important on entertainment licenses that we do them when we read the times.
Fair enough. I move that we approve the following 2024 seasonal entertainment license renewal as noted in packet with conditions previously contained in prior licenses, including time and type, as voted in 2023. MT Group, DBA Mad Minnow Bar and Kitchen, 554 Route 28. Weekday 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. inside and outside, live recorded music amplification, dancing by live performers. Sunday 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. inside and outside, live recorded music amplification, dancing by live performers.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.
Why don't you do number 2, Michael? I just don't want to, I don't want to exclude or
Gonna
include anything
defer
I
to
should.
Dawn.
Refer to Don.
I lost my eyesight when I was trying to look at this.
I move that we approve the 2024 seasonal entertainment license renewal for the Port Restaurant and Bar Incorporated, 541 Route 28, with the following conditions. The weekday entertainment, 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. inside, and 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. outside. I think that covers the time, correct?
I thought it was 11 AM inside too. Let me just double check it. Weekday inside, 11 AM to 12 AM. Weekday outside, 11 AM to 10
So
PM.
both of them are good. All right, weekdays, again, the Port Restaurant and Bar Incorporated, 541 Route 28, weekdays from 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. inside and 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. outside. We are going to do that for the outside entertainment by acoustic entertainment only. And Sunday, 10 a.m. to 12 a.m., is that?
Sunday is, Sunday inside is 1 PM to 12 AM. And Sunday outside is 1 PM to 10 PM.
Okay, so that's significantly different. So Sunday from 1 p.m. to 12 a.m. inside and 1 p.m. to 10 a.m. outside, again,
10 PM.
or to 10 p.m., and again, with acoustic entertainment only.
Second, I could have done that.
Okay, and I would just,
But
sorry
you
to-
didn't.
Sorry to debate this. I would say, personally, I think what we're trying to get to is live entertainment outside is acoustic only.
Right, no amplification.
That would be, so, you know, when you have a TV playing, that's gonna be amplified. I mean, we have to acknowledge that at very least. If their TV is playing or the background ambient music, we've called it in the past, is playing outside, we have to acknowledge that that is amplified.
I get that, and I'd be willing to change the motion, but I just caution everybody, I can't believe that anything that was brought up here from the office has those terms in it, so we're gonna have to make sure that they get issued that way.
The only other thought would be, on the inside, the fact that they're asking to go from 11 to 10, I'm not concerned about the inside of this establishment. And I would be willing to give them the earlier time on the inside. Sunday, you know, they're in proximity to the church. But again, on the inside, what does it matter to the board if they
All
start
right,
early?
so just to be clear, you want to do weekday, keep it at 10, don't change it to 11, right?
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, weekday, 10 AM to 12 AM, so that gives them an extra hour in the morning. Just inside, right.
Yep.
And then outside, weekday outside was 11 AM to 10 PM last year. And here it's going 10 AM to 10 PM outside.
And that was not only not my motion, but as I look at the other licenses, that's more than what we're giving the morning part to anybody.
I'm only commenting on inside. Outside, I'm comfortable with what we did last year and why.
Yeah.
But on the inside, I'm definitely comfortable with the 10.
And I'm saying that all of the other licenses start later than that.
Weekday inside.
So I'll withdraw my motion and somebody else can make it because I'm not going to vote to increase the time.
I'll withdraw my second,
Okay,
but I would like to, if I may, Madam Chair.
sure, go ahead.
I would like to support Select Board Member McCaskill in his position. I don't think it's the board's jurisdiction to determine what they do on the inside of their business. I don't, there's been no violations internal with the inside. I say we allow them their weekday 10 a.m. and their Sunday 10 a.m. start.
That's the part that I can't agree to at all. It's near a church and 1 p.m. is much more reasonable. It's always been that.
Yeah,
The departure is what you're saying right now.
Well, I understand it's always been that, but I'm in support of allowing inside. I'm, happy to have a discussion with you. So, I have a hard time dictating what a business does inside their four walls, is my position. And that would be for any business, not the Port, not Ember, not Lucky Labrador. Doesn't matter to me. I think inside their four walls, they should be able to have entertainment if they chose.
And really what I'm getting at is if they're opening up the restaurant and they're playing music inside or playing a TV as background music, that has to be covered here. I'm not sure how many people would show up for a band inside at 10 a.m., especially on a Sunday, or that they're even proposing that. But I move that we approve the 2024 seasonal entertainment license renewal for the Port Restaurant and Bar, Inc., 541 Route 28, weekday, 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. inside, Sunday, 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. inside. And that would be for jukebox, radio, television, live recorded music with amplification, dancing by performers. And I'm doing this separate inside and outside, so it's going to be 2 motions on this license.
Yep, so the weekday and Sunday have been done, and they're both for the inside, and they're both include amplified music
would-
inside.
I would second that motion.
So moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Joe?
So I believe the licenses in your packet were constructed to reflect what was achieved in 2023. So we wouldn't have licenses this evening for you to sign for that establishment.
Understood, right, because it's a different time, right? So we've got a motion and a second for the change of, basically just changing, to be clear, the inside to 10 a.m. Everything else is staying the same.
For inside, yes.
Right. So there's a motion and
For
a second.
weekday and Sunday, correct?
Weekday and Sunday, inside only, that we're talking about right now. So motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay. I move that we approve the following 2024 seasonal entertainment license, Port Restaurant and Bar, Inc., 541 Route 28, specific to the outside. I am moving that we approve the 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. weekday and the 1 a.m. to 10 p.m.
1
1 p.m.
1 p.m.
It's a long day.
Yeah, 1 p.m., 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. outside. And that's to include a jukebox, radio, television, live and recorded music, dancing by live performers. And on the live and recorded music, it's acoustic only,
Yeah.
But that's not but that would not be amplified.
non-amplified.
He didn't say
No
amplified.
amplification outside
Okay.
on live performance.
And that sticks to the same times we had last year on outdoor for both the weekday and the Sunday. So that,
Second.
thank you. All in favor?
Can I ask a
Oh,
question,
sorry.
though? The way you've worded that, can you repeat the jukebox, radio, television, live and recorded music? Because right after that, it says amplification.
Yeah,
Said
but I got
without.
rid of the amplification, specified in the motion that the amplification is only, it's acoustic music only. But I do believe we have to account for, and I'm all for changing the language of this. But if you're gonna have a television playing, it's amplified. If you're gonna have a radio playing in the background, it's amplified. But I wanna make it very clear that the live entertainment in my motion is acoustic only.
Right.
And that was my second.
And just again, for clarification, that is the same as what they had last year. Okay, so a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
Thank you.
And Joe, I hope I was specific enough for staff. If they have any questions, I'd be happy to come in tomorrow and answer them. Given that there's normally an attorney involved in this one, I want to make sure it's crystal clear that outdoors is acoustic only.
I move that we approve the following 2024 seasonal entertainment license renewal. Belmont Beach Condominium Trust Club, DBA The Beach, 1 Belmont Road. Weekday 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. inside. Live and recorded music, amplification, dancing by live performers and patrons.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. I move that we.
4-0, sorry.
Sorry. I move that we approve the following 2024 seasonal entertainment license renewal. Lucky Labrador, Inc., DBA Perks, 545 Route 28. Okay. Weekday, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. inside, and 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. outside. Jukebox, radio, television, live recorded music, amplification, dancing by live performers and patrons. Sunday, 1 p.m. to 12 a.m. inside, 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. inside, and 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. outside. Inside, 1 p.m. to 12 a.m. ambient music and television only. Inside, 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. jukebox, radio, television, live recorded music, amplification, and dancing. Outside, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. jukebox, radio, television, live recorded music, amplification, and dancing.
With all other previous restrictions.
As noted in packet, with conditions previously contained in prior license of 2023, including time and type.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Did you vote?
Yeah, I was trying to get a
All right.
comment in.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just wondering why the outside starts earlier than the inside.
Outside, on this one?
I know in previous conversations, through you, Madam Chair, in previous conversation, it is the outdoor ambient background music while they're opening the restaurant.
Oh, yeah,
No.
because they have.
I know we've had in the past a few complaints because the music was too loud, but it came back that it was an error by somebody that was opening.
Yeah.
So I know we've had that conversation in the past.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
4-0.
I move that we approve the following 2024 seasonal amusement license renewal. Grand Slam Entertainment, 322 Main Street, weekday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., batters box and video games. As noted in packet, with conditions previously contained in prior licenses.
Second.
Seconded, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.
I move that we approve the 2024 seasonal amusement license renewal for the AJG Corporation DBA Harbor Glen Mini Golf, 168 Route 28, weekday and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. mini golf, as noted in packet, and conditions previously contained in prior licenses.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. I move that we approve.
4-0, sorry.
Sorry, Joe. I move that we approve the following 2024 seasonal amusement license renewal for Hall's Carts Incorporated, DBA Bud's Go-Karts, 9 Sisson Road. Weekday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. go-karts, as noted in packet, with conditions previously contained in prior licenses.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
4-0,
Thank you.
sorry.
I move that we approve a 2024 seasonal in-holders license renewal for Allen Harbor Inn LLC, DBA Allen Harbor Rentals, 326 Lower County Road, as noted in packet, with conditions previously contained in prior licenses.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. 4-0. Contracts.
For signatures on those items.
John?
Top one is for the chair only.
Ready for the contracts, Madam Chair?
Yes, thank you.
I move that we approve an agreement with NextGrid, Inc. for the decommissioning and removal of renewable energy electric generating facilities at 0 Depot Road, and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
Discussion? What is this? I apologize.
It's at Zero Depot.
Yeah.
That's the solar array that, I'll let Joe describe it better, but they're taking it, dismantling it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you'll see in the packet, this is a matter that our Planning and Zoning Department have been working on for several months. I know that originally this had gone before the Planning Board and then to the Zoning Board, and then Council has recommended that, I think for the next step is for the Select Board to execute this agreement for decommissioning and removal of renewable energy electric generating facilities. Actually, this evening, what is actually being asked is that the board vote to approve, and then the board will be asked to sign upon the endorsement of the other party.
Thank you.
So you're being asked this evening to endorse the language.
Any other questions? Does anyone want to make a
None from
motion?
me. I did.
You did.
Oh, you did
And I
make the
seconded
motion.
it,
Sorry,
actually.
you said.
Second.
I knew that.
And that's when Michael
All in
said what he
favor?
said.
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we approve a
4-0, Madam Chair?
4-0.
Thank you.
Keep
Sorry.
sliding right in there. I move that we approve a contract with McGovern Auto Group Corp. Services in the amount of $75,126.85 for the purchase of a 2024 Ford Super Duty F-350.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? 4-0.
I move that we approve a contract with McGovern Auto Group Services in the amount of $118,335.50 for the purchase of a 2024 Ford Super Duty F-550.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is that it?
One more, I need a
One more.
4-0.
Oh, sorry, 4-0.
I move, I move that we approve a contract with the McGovern Group, McGovern Auto Group Corp. Services in the amount of $107,476.10 for the purchase of a 2024 Ford Super Duty F-450.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Town Administrators Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This evening, I do not have any contracts or employee appointments to announce. That is my report.
Thank you, Joe. Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is kind of a homework assignment, Joe. We had the discussion last meeting about whether or not there was the ability to use Brooks Academy anywhere, throughout the whole building first, and then secondly, about whether there was any carve-out anywhere. If indeed they don't have occupancy and the public can't go in it at all while we're waiting for fall meeting to happen or not happen, I would love to get a report back from you about whether it's possible to get a waiver to at least get the main floor open. Because right now, we got a building that we put on a foundation, we can't use at all. As far as I can understand it, the commission members have all said that they have a limited ability themselves to get in, but nothing else can happen.
Okay, so Joe, will you,
That's for next week, you just,
yeah, for next week,
yeah.
would you look into that?
I certainly will. I will be only as successful as the availability of staff. Either way, I'll be able to update the board next week as to either that status or when you can expect the status update. That's
Thank you.
acceptable.
Or, for that matter, for what it might take if we don't, if we haven't asked for that, what it would take to do it.
Okay.
That's
Thank
it.
you. Anything else? Jeff?
The only thing I'd ask is an update on Hark. Where do we sit with that?
I have that, except that the budget took
Yeah, no.
precedence over that, but I have it in Word format so I can actually do something with it.
Yeah, great. I've just gotten a bunch of phone calls about it, want to update the people who have asked.
It hasn't been lost, it's just,
Oh, no, we're busy. Thank you.
I had 70-something million reasons.
So, you'll send me an email, Dawn, when you're ready to put that on? So maybe next week or the
Yeah,
following week?
probably the following week, because I have to finish up the final Hall of Fame write-up.
Okay. Michael?
I'm all set. No report.
And I'm all set.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nice